Welcome to Oregon Law Lab. I'm Jessica Brown.
And I'm Professor Liz Tippett.
Today we'll be talking about employee scheduling software.
With Charlotte Alexander from Georgia State University School of Business. Joining me in the interview will be Ben Pincus, a third-year student at the University of Oregon.
Professor Alexander, it's great to see you.
Hi, Professor Tippett. Great to see you too.
And this is my research assistant, Ben.
Okay. Hi, Ben.
Hi, nice to meet you.
You too.
Well, first, can you tell us how the scheduling software works?
Scheduling software enables employers to really try to trim the fat, so to speak. This is sort of the pitch that scheduling software makes. Trim the fat, not have workers standing around doing nothing during slow times, and really tie the number of workers more closely to the customer demand. Scheduling software might be able to analyze all of the previous customer interactions, or analyze all of the sales over a long period of time, and pinpoint particular days and times where there is an influx of customers and therefore a greater need for labor. Software can also take into account other factors like weather, for example. So if weather is a driver of greater customer foot traffic, or good weather is a driver of greater customer foot traffic, then the scheduling software can incorporate that into the analysis and essentially spit out the other end a recommendation or a prediction of the amount of the number of workers who would be needed at that day and time.
What are some of the costs of just-in-time scheduling?
What this ends up doing is introducing a lot of variability in workers' schedules, because they're no longer just working a 9-to-5 shift, let's say, but rather their schedule varies depending on the forecasted demand for their presence. The other aspect is when workers are at work and there is not enough customer demand, workers would be sent home.
Can you talk a little bit about how this impacts individual workers?
If the parent has no sense or no real sense of when they are going to be required to be available for work, that creates major problems with respect to childcare. Also, the ability to take and hold a second job is affected if a first job's schedule is very uncertain and variable. Workers who are trying to go to school at the same time as working have a hard time. And I've had firsthand experience with this with some of my undergraduate classes that I teach, my students who work retail at the same time. I hear a lot about their last minute call-ins to work. But also there's a real problem with managing income. So if my work hours vary wildly week to week, I might have a very hard time budgeting because I don't know what to expect in my paycheck.
I feel like the software treats people like they're like a part of a machine, like a car part, you know?
Right.
And that like any extra car parts that are lying around the factory floor are waste. And
right.
I guess to me, like, this whole thing feels like you're treating people like they're waste, which I don't know, I find that really appalling.
Well, this whole approach to scheduling comes from manufacturing, right? So it actually comes from innovations in manufacturing. So, for example, Wal-Mart is famous for having products come in on their trucks, cross the loading dock, and go straight onto the shelves, right? So the idea is that you don't have a lot of inventory sitting around, but rather you order up your products, you being Walmart here, order up your products from your suppliers just in time to put them on the shelf to be sold. There are other companies that, there are companies like Costco, for example, is often held up as an example of a company that does not use just-in-time scheduling.
It makes sense to me that Costco doesn't do that, because it would be totally hypocritical of them, because they expect me to buy like a year's worth of toilet paper that sits in a shelf at my house. So,
Right.
you know.
So, right. No, you could think about, right, that would be interesting, right? Costco is shifting the warehousing burden to the customer,
That's
right?
right.
No, but the thing that Costco does, that at least they're quite well known for in these circles, is cross-train its employees, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
in theory, the employee who can sell you a tire can also sell you a diamond ring. And so one way to get around the send home part of scheduling, so you don't just send someone home, instead you switch them over to another department where they're useful.
So that makes a lot of sense. And cross training seems like, as we're talking about it here, it seems like the way to go. But I imagine there are employers out there who just say, no, I want one employee to do this one particular thing. So in that case, when employers aren't willing to make those changes, do you envision the legislature needing to step in and create some kind of regulation?
So there has started over the last several years to be a move toward scheduling stability legislation, primarily on the city level. But if we think about workers as being one of the biggest assets that a company has, then the idea that workers are just sort of there to be commoditized and optimized, I think is troubling. And if particularly in industries where service is important, I think that employers are putting themselves on a tricky road, because those workers ultimately are not going to provide great service. We're going to reach a point, sort of a maximum point of scheduling instability, where I think it'll be clear that we need to move away from the concept of labor just as a commodity and think about the whole person who is working, in terms of their stability, their family stability, and then also what's the quality of the good or service that they're producing and offering in the marketplace.
Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like and subscribe.